What have been your impressions of Mike McCarthy living at the Ford Center and covering the team as you do every single week?
I think that he is a better coach than people give him credit for. I think that I don't know how to say this I'm just going to say it. I think he's almost, because of where he's from, how he talks, how he looks, I think people have just immediately dismissed him, that he's not a good coach. I'm not saying
But he's opposite of Jason, right? Jason was buttoned up Princeton.
Right.
And McCarthy's rough Pittsburgh.
It's like Jason was too perfect.
Yes.
And Mike is too disheveled almost.
That's a good word. Yeah.
Like, honestly.
Yeah.
But he's a really bright guy. And when it comes to football, just from an X's and O's standpoint and just chatting with him on the side and hearing certain things, the way that he's answered certain questions, the way that he's handled the Jones family, basically courting Sean Payton while he's still the coach.
And Dan Quinn.
And Dan Quinn's situation, and Kellen Moore still calling the plays. And yet I feel like he has still handled that pretty well. And everybody's acting like last year was a disaster. They were one of the best teams in the NFL, and then they underachieved in a playoff game, which happens to a lot of teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's a top 5 coach. I'm not saying they're winning the Super Bowl this year, and I'm not saying he's going to be the guy next year. But I almost feel like Mike McCarthy got the job, and Cowboys fans were already ready to talk about why he was a mistake and he shouldn't be here. And I really think that while he made some time management mistakes, and he probably should find somebody to help him with that, for sure, there are other aspects to the game that I think that he's actually very good, and I think he's very much underappreciated. That's not to say that he's amazing, again, but I do think that he's a lot better than what Cowboys fans give him credit for. That's been my take from the beginning, and just listening to different things. I'll give you an example. Dan Quinn gets a lot of credit for turning the defense around last year. And Dan Quinn did a great job. His energy is infectious. If you spend 30 seconds with Dan Quinn, you walk away understanding why every player in that locker room loves Dan Quinn, because that's who he is personality-wise and all of that. I've heard a lot of the ideas that came with what Dan rediscovered himself and came in with a new plan, new idea. I mean, he was a cover 3. Yep. We're going to run that Seattle scheme forever. And then he comes here, and last year they ran cover 1 robber, tons of man-to-man, just a completely different look from what he had ever done. I've heard that Mike was a big part of that. But Dan gets all the credit because Dan's the guy, and he's somehow finding a way to lead this defense to be amazing, even though Mike McCarthy's there holding him back, is the sense that I get among fans.
Right.
Again, I want to stress that I'm not sitting here saying that he's a top 3 guy, and Belichick, come on now. But I do think that he's better than he gets credit for. I'm interested to see what Amari looks like this year. Obviously, they've got the Deshaun Watson situation, and now it might be Jacoby Brissett playing quarterback. That's a big step down from Dak Prescott. But also, I'm interested to see if Dallas can find a way to let CeeDee Lamb use his superpower this year as the number 1 guy. Do they move him around? Are they able to get the ball in his hands? And the playoff game, he had 1 catch. That cannot happen. And again, you're listening to a guy who just said that McCarthy's better than Cowboys fans give him credit. That was an awful game plan for the playoff game. The season long, I think they were much better than they got credit for. That game was bad. But I think Amari Cooper, I'm very interested to see if he continues to quote-unquote shrink in big games going forward. Was it a Cowboys thing? Was it a Dak thing? Was it a scheme thing?
Right.
Or was he really good at separating but not great with the hands and making plays in big moments, which is what it kind of felt like to me. It's somewhere in the middle, but to me it's a fascinating study to kind of see, is he really in that tier of the greats, the guys who deserve $20+ million a year, or did the Cowboys just actually get a break and not having to pay him anymore and getting rid of him and moving on and letting CeeDee Lamb become the main guy?
This is the second time that Kurt Warner has done this now with the Cowboys scheme.
Yeah.
He had a tremendous breakdown, basically calling out Kellen Moore months and months ago.
Yeah.
And now it's the second clip you played where it sounds like it's kind of suggesting it. So I can't wait. There's so many Cleveland parallels once Watson gets on the field. Deshaun, Dak, Amari, scheme, the running backs, all that stuff. I can't wait for.
One other quick thing is we mentioned earlier that quarterbacks list, and there was an NFL executive who talked about Dak maybe being a tick late, being a little bit indecisive, the double hitch and the extra hitch.
Yes.
And that was something that Warner mentioned multiple times in that video, was that look at the separation here. The ball should be on him. Dak's a little late and it's happened multiple times in that video. I'm interested in seeing this year how much Dak improves, because I think an underreported, under-talked about story last year was his quarterback coach, John Beck, who he works with from 3D QB, spent the second half of last season with the New York Jets with Zach Wilson and stopped working with Dak. Well, now they're back working together again. They actually work in Huntington Beach, California, my hometown. John Beck left Dak and 3D QB to help Zach because the Jets QB coach passed away tragically just before the season. So he was doing Zach, who he also works with, a favor. Now he's back working with Dak this offseason. Dak's talked a lot about his footwork, a lot about his mechanics this offseason, and I'm interested to see if maybe that was part of the reason that he didn't play as great in the second half of the year, is he wasn't getting that extra coaching from his QB guru in that second half and in the playoffs that he used to get and was getting in the first half of last year. They're back working together again now.